Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for recording the meeting, Flora. So, morning, everyone. It's great to have you here for another round of LinkedIn for Breakfast. I'm stepping in for the final time today to host while Richard is actually on his way back now from running the Marathon des Sables. So, yep, that was the ultra marathon through the Sahara Desert. He will be back in one piece next week. But in the meantime,
Absolutely.
keeping things running with another full session full of practical value. If it's your first time joining us, welcome for LinkedIn for Breakfast. It's our weekly series where we break down strategies that actually move the needle on LinkedIn, from building your brand to generating leads and winning new business. Now, before we jump into today's session, a quick reminder of why we do this. Our mission at LinkedIn for Breakfast is to help entrepreneurs unlock the full potential of LinkedIn as a powerful tool for business development and brand expansion. And to support you, I've gone too quickly then. About our mission and our vision. I skipped a slide. I'm so sorry. So our mission is to help you unlock the full potential of LinkedIn. And our vision, why do we do this? It's to make this the best place on earth to learn LinkedIn for free. Remember, LinkedIn isn't just a place to scroll content. It's a powerful tool for getting seen, getting known, and getting clients. And that's why we're here every week, bringing you insights to help you grow. And to support you beyond these sessions, Richard has built an amazing community with over 3,500 people inside our LinkedIn school. That's where you'll find all the replays, the mini courses, networking pods, and resources to help you take action. Flora will drop the link into the chat now. So if you're not in there yet, do be sure to join. So what's on the agenda today? We've got another high impact session lined up for you, focused on what really moves the needle in sales. Part one, we're going to dive into the art of the close, how to handle sales conversations from the first call to the final yes. We've got the amazing Joey with us today, who'll walk us through the exact strategies that he and his clients use to close consistently without sounding pushy or scripted. Part two, we will open up the floor to your questions. This is your chance to get real-time feedback on your sales challenges, whether it's objection handling, pricing conversations, or getting ghosted. So grab a pen, get your questions ready, and let's get straight into it. So Joey, I will stop sharing, and it's over to you.
All right. Good morning, everyone. So a super quick background. So I work very closely with Richard Woods, and I've been working with him for the last couple of years. I've done close to about 5 million in sales over the last about 4 years as well. And through that, I've learned a lot of lessons that, have really helped me on my journey. I've also sort of worked quite closely with Richard to improve our own sales process as well. Just going to let a couple of people in. So what I want to cover today is kind of what are the biggest lessons I've learned? What is the exact sales structure that we use as well? I know some of you are going to be doing a 1-call close or a 2-call close. Some of you might do like a free audit or a free assessment or something like that. Some of you might be doing free discovery calls. So I do want to try and tailor this as much as possible to what you guys need. So please feel free to ping questions in the chat. I'll do my best to answer them. I might not answer a few till after I'm done presenting. But obviously, the more you guys input your questions, the more I can support you guys as well. So feel free to let me know whether you do like a discovery, like just a discovery call, or do you guys do like an audit or something along those lines? And let me know in the chat. And then we'll kind of cover most of the questions later on. So I'm just going to share my screen quickly to this document. So the first thing is a lot of people think that in order to close deals, you need to be pushy. Now, we all know that, when we're looking to work with people who are actually sophisticated buyers, it's actually the worst thing you can do. And I actually think sometimes instead of trying to drag someone across the line, it's even better to kind of do the opposite and kind of go, well, you tell me like what's actually brought you here, like why now? Why not wait 6 months from now, 12 months from now? Actually, your situation doesn't seem like, it seems like you're in an okay place. Like, why not just stay where you are? Do you know what I mean? Instead of trying to like convince someone, drag them across the line, trying to actually like lead the conversation, find out what really drives them. And it's also not about the price. A lot of people, one of the biggest mistakes I see is people just discount the price. If someone says, oh, that's a lot of money, and then they're trying to work with them on reducing the price or extending the payment plan, but we really need to bring it back to the certainty. So we're going to cover kind of objections and how you handle those kinds of things later on. But it really is all your belief, your clarity, and your confidence. Now, I don't know whether you guys have someone who does sales for you or you do your own selling. And I think it really is important to actually nail down your own sales first before you outsource it. But the two most important skills when it comes to closing, and the two biggest things that's actually going to impact your closing rate is number one, it's your skill set, which is your ability to dive in, dig deeper, figure out what really drives that person, lead them, like pinpoint behaviors, right? So when I say pinpoint behaviors, what I mean is you might spot a pattern of behavior where that person has procrastinated in the past. And it's your job as the leader to kind of find out and spot these patterns of behavior so that we can overcome those objections in the discovery portion of the close, not the close, sorry, the discovery portion of the call. That way, later on, they're not going to think about it. Because if you let that go and this person says, oh, I procrastinated in the past, I looked at other things, I never took action, we need to question them on it. We need to find out, why didn't they take action? What was missing? What stopped them? Was there fear? Like, do they have a belief that it might not work? Do they have a belief that they don't have the time? And unless we overcome these kinds of questions and challenges, limiting beliefs, and share an insight around that quite early on in the call, can pretty much guarantee that that's going to come up as an objection later on. Does that make sense? So it's really important. So the first part is the skill set. That's the first thing that impacts your closing rate. And the second thing is actually your level of certainty, right? How certain are you, not just in your product, but that your solution is the best thing that is going to solve the problem for that individual? Does that make sense? That if they go somewhere else to a competitor, or they try and do it on their own, that it's not going to benefit them in the long run. If you don't believe that, it's going to be hard to really lead that person to make a strong decision. Does that make sense? So those are the two things. It's actually your own conviction and your own skill set. Is there any questions on that? I think there's a few things here in the chat. Let me just stop share quickly. Just check in. Okay, so Linda says that I invite them to an information session. Okay, so Linda, is that like a free value session? Or is that like a group setting, or how is it that you set those calls up?
Yeah, it's a one-to-many.
Okay, so you do a one-to-many, and then is that like a bit like a lunch and learn breakfast session, a bit like
sort of thing, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So then off the back of that, then you offer a discovery call, is that right?
Yeah, people can then get in touch with me, and if they want to know any more, I tell them, or I just pass on the link so that they can join what I've got.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so that I wouldn't call that the set part of your sales process. Richard talks about the power of one. So with your marketing, when you're connecting with people, sending messages, posting content, that's awareness. I would call that your consider part of your funnel, like your middle of funnel. So you're doing a free value session, you're giving information and letting them know they can book a call. So we're mainly just focusing on the convert part. So some people on the convert part, they do an audit or like a one-to-one assessment. And some people do like just a standard discovery call or a sales call. And then some people do that split into two calls as well. But it's a great structure. It's what we teach our clients to do, is to have some form of nurture part, some form of kind of value session that you do. And then off the back of that, then you can obviously speak to people who are interested in what you do. But thank you for sharing that. I really love that. And then we had one more, a clean PowerPoint presentation. Okay, awesome. Yeah, so I think that's a good thing to do. I think it's good to go through a presentation as part of your sales process. And we do that within $1 Million Sprint as well. Okay, so let's go through the structure. Now, these are kind of checkpoints. It's not going to always be this exact structure for every type of business. Some types of businesses might start directly with the problem and go into, what's the biggest challenge that you see. Some people start the other way around, where they go into, first of all, talking about goals and background. So it does depend on your business. So do take this with a pinch of salt. But the important thing is that there is a flow, there's specific checkpoints, and there are specific things that need to be done. I'm going to share a couple of nuances that I've learned that's really going to help you increase your closing on this as well. So when it comes to the flow, this is just a quick overview. So we generally start with building rapport, getting to know that individual, and then going straight into the frame of the call. Okay, really important that you've set a strong frame, you set expectations very clearly and succinctly. Then we go into background questions. So kind of finding out a bit more information, going into the specifics, going into like the details. What are they doing right now? If it's a business thing, what's their offer? What's their price point? Things like that. Their goal and also the challenge. So some of you might be in a business where they haven't implemented what you're going to teach them or what you're going to do. So in which case, asking them what's the challenge isn't really going to be helpful, right? Well, actually, I'm just coming here because I'm just learning it. But what you can do is you can find out the goal, extrapolate that, find out the vision, and then ask them, what do you think will be the biggest challenge? What do you think is going to be the biggest obstacle when it comes to achieving X, Y, Z? When it comes to raising X amount for your business, or when it comes to implementing this type of strategy? That way, at least they can future pace and say, oh, well, I've no idea how to do that. I don't know how I'm going to do that. Like, I've never done this before. Now you can kind of draw out those types of challenges. But if it is something they're implementing, obviously you're going to say, what's been the biggest obstacle? Like, what stopped you from achieving this so far? Does that make sense? You also want to find out what they've tried. And this is a really powerful nuance. I'm going to cover this in a second. But what are the alternative options that they have available to them? Now, I don't know if you guys have ever had it on a call where you get to the end of the call and then they say, oh, well, I need to think about it. And, I've got a few other calls. I'm looking at a few other options. So kind of let me do my research. Right. That's a really, really, really frustrating thing to hear at the end of the call. So this is going to prevent that from happening. So when you're looking at alternatives, you're looking at, what other things have they considered? What other options are they looking at? And then you can go through, look, most people tend to do one of two or three things. And then you can say, some people try and do it on their own. Here's the drawbacks of that. Here's the challenges that will come up. Some people go to this type of, like your competitor, so someone who does design work where, they're going to do a beautiful design, but it's not going to convert. Does that make sense? And some people go to this, and this is why that's also doesn't work for most people, and you end up spending way more than you need to. So you need to kind of like create doubt in other options. And that then creates more certainty in what you have to offer, and also more certainty that they do need support. Does that make sense? I think it's important to find out what do they need. And then, creating doubt. So what have they tried? I've kind of combined the two there, but you understand what I mean. And then the recap, this is also really important. So when we do a recap, we normally say, okay, thanks so much for sharing that. So obviously, like, this is the goal, like, this is kind of what's held you back. You've tried all these other things. You've been doing this for about 3 years, but this hasn't worked for this reason. This happened and you ended up getting burnt. And ultimately you feel like this is what you need. Does that sound about right? So you do a quick recap. They give you that's exactly like the situation. That's, you've got that, you've hit the nail on the head, or you hit the hammer on the nail. You can tell I've spoken to a few Americans recently. And then what you can say is, okay, now that we've covered that, if nothing changes in the next 12 months, what would be the impact of that? What's going to happen if nothing changes in the next 12 months from now? And then they're going to tell you. And then you can say, okay, so we were able to figure out a way to overcome this challenge, to implement this, and to give you X, Y, Z, and you were able to create X, Y, Z goal. How would that impact you in 12 months from now? What would that look like? So getting them to buy into the vision again. At that point, then you can say, are you open for me to show you kind of how we help you do that? Like, is it cool if I share my screen and take you through what it looks like? And at that point, they should be very, very, very excited to hear what you have to say. Now, it's very important that we actually check off each point, because if we don't have a clear goal and a challenge, we don't want to move on to the next section. Does that make sense? A lot of people ask the questions and they just move on to the next section. So I'm happy to share this with you guys, and there's some specific questions that you can dive in. So when it comes to creating doubt, as an example, like you mentioned that you tried it on your own and you've done that for the last couple of years. Do you think that's even an option, or do you feel like this is something that you really need support with? At that point, if you created doubt, they're going to say, okay, well, no, I definitely need help with this. Okay. And look, if nothing changes, where do you think you'd be in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months from now? So this type of consequence question is really, really important. And I would write out what differentiates your business versus your competitors. Okay. So what kind of elements is it? Is it that you provide more support? Is it you have a more in-depth assessment process, in which case you can actually provide a more tailored solution? Maybe other people kind of give them a specific software, but it doesn't solve a particular problem. Does that kind of make sense? So I just want to check in with you guys. what questions do you guys have? I'm just going to check in the chat. Okay, cool. So David's mentioned that I've got a verbal presentation. I found that a verbal presentation is more powerful without slides. Okay, so that's interesting. I've done both. Personally, I found that having slides tends to work better, but it really, really depends on what's actually on the slides as well. And it depends on how much rapport that you built with the individual and how much they know about your business. Because slides can actually solve quite a lot of different problems and really help you with that, with getting your point across, depending on what it is. But yeah, I wouldn't say that it's the be all and end all. The sales process and building rapport and asking the right questions is really the most important thing. Okay, so I've got a question here. What are the questions for rapport and frame? Okay, so when you're building rapport, it's just very, very simple. You know, hey Richard, great to meet you today. You know, where are you calling from? Or, where are you from? So it's just really, really, really simple. You might just say one or two things about where they're from, where you're from, etc. Really, really, really simple. It might be if it was I don't know, Easter coming up, and let's say it's just been Easter, you might talk about that. What did you do over the weekend, etc. Okay, cool. Ready to dive in if you are. Awesome. So the way today's call is going to go, we've got about 45 minutes. And the way I like to run these calls is understand a bit about you and the business, kind of find out what's holding you back and what is it that you need. And then obviously if what we offer is a fit, I'm more than happy to take you through what that looks like. And if not, then hopefully share some insights. Does that sound like a plan? So you're basically just trying to go understand you, see if there's alignment, see if and how we can help you, or see, what's holding you back. And then if what we offer is a fit, more than happy to show you what that looks like. Does that sound like a plan? Really, really simple. So that's the kind of how you would set the frame. It's a great question there, Graham. Thank you for that. Then we've got Claire's mentioned an initial chat or discovery session with some of these prep questions. Oh, sorry. What did you mean by that, Claire? I'll be misreading that. Okay, Mark's asking for the notes. Yes, absolutely. More than happy to share those.
Hi. Yeah, I was just some of the questions you're asking around challenges,
Yes.
where they are, a little bit about the background, setting the scene, where they see themselves. When they book a session with me, they get sort of some of those questions as preparation. So as part of the booking process. And so I have some of that information.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Okay.
it
So
saves
those.
time and I can be more focused.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. So you can absolutely ask some of the questions ahead of time. But it's still really important to go through them on the call, I would say, as well. So what kind of questions do you ask ahead of time?
A little bit about their background. Some people give me their life history. Some people it's just one or two sentences. What are their main challenges and where they see themselves in the next 3 to 6 months?
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so you absolutely want to dive into that. It's not just about getting the answer. It's also about digging in and really understanding why. So you would obviously mention, thanks so much for filling that in. I see here that you've mentioned that XYZ is the biggest challenge. Tell me a bit more about that. How long's that been a challenge for? What else have you tried? Like, what would you say is the most difficult aspect of that? It sounds like you've been trying to do this for about 2 years. Is that impacting you? How's that impacting you in other areas? Does that impact on your business? Does that impact on your relationships? Does that make sense? So you're really trying to dig in, like, hey, you mentioned this, tell me a bit more about that. And then you're digging in a bit more. How does that impact on X area? How does that impact on this area as well? And you're trying and get a bigger scope as to the wider impact of that as well. And it's more so they can see how it's impacting things too. And with the goal as well, you can say, curious, you mentioned this goal, like why that particular goal? I'm curious. I'm not saying that's wrong, by the way, but just really want to understand, like, what is it about that that's important to you? Okay, let's say you did achieve that goal. What then? What's the vision? What would you love longer term? When you achieve that goal, how would that impact on other areas as well? Is there any other goals that you're looking to achieve? How would your husband feel about that if you did achieve? Do you see what I mean? So you're trying to get a wider picture, wider scope around all of these things too, to find out what really drives them. So you're always trying to go a level deeper or get further clarity from there. Does that make sense? But very, very important, because the more you can understand the goal and the vision and the challenge and how's that impacting them, it's incredibly important. It's not just about getting the information in the form. It's about getting them to talk about it and getting them to understand the wider impact of that. If they solve it and if they don't solve it, why it's important to them. Does that make sense? Okay. Thanks, Graham. Appreciate that.
I think I can see Sue's got her hand up, but I was thinking, Sue, if you could just keep that question popped in your head for now until and we'll let you finish your presentation, Joey, because we are going to have a big Q&A session in part 2, and I don't want to run through all our questions now.
Cool.
And then we're going to have a
Yeah.
very short Q&A session. So we will get back to you, Sue, but if we can just pin those questions until the end, that would be great.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so did you guys want me to go through the script in a little bit more detail? Would that be helpful for you guys? Or we could also go through kind of before the call, after the call. Let's go into it in a bit more detail. Okay, beautiful. Just bear with me. Let me pull this up again. Okay, perfect. So, all right, so let's go through. So you go through, you basically build rapport. Hey, awesome to meet you. You know, where are you calling from today? Where are you based? That kind of thing. Awesome. So, you know, we've got about 45 minutes. Here's how I like to run the call. First of all, you know, would like to understand a bit more about your situation, kind of see what's really holding you back. You know, what is it you'd like to achieve around X, Y, Z? And then obviously if what we offer is a fit, more than happy to take you through what that looks like. Does that sound like a plan? You could also add at the end of it, you know, and if not, then also hopefully share some insights for you as well. Then what you're going to do is say, okay, so, you know, feel free to kind of give me a bit of a background, you know, where are you at right now? What's the goal or what's and this first question really does depend on your business, because if you're like, let's say that you're getting funding for businesses, then you might just say, you know, give me a bit of a background, you know, how much funding are you looking to get? Like, what kind of things have you looked at already? Where are you at in your funding journey? You know, that kind of question would probably make sense for that example. If it's weight loss or something like that, then you might just say, okay, cool. You know, so tell me a bit about, you know, what you're looking to achieve when it comes to weight loss. What's the current weight? What are you currently doing? Okay, cool. You know, what kind of foods are you eating? Like, are you following a plan right now? So you're just trying to understand what is the current situation? What are they currently doing? Where are they at? If that makes sense. And this is where you kind of ask all the different questions. Now, a key point to note at this point here is you want to think about what your solution is and think about what the checkpoints are for your program. Okay. So if, for example, you do a personalized like nutrition plan, then you might ask a question around that type of thing. You know, what kind of plan are you following right now? Is that like a tailored plan? Is it quite generic? Do you find do you see what I mean? So you're trying to ask the questions and tailor it to your solution to make it personalized, so you can actually later on it makes sense. So you want to tie your solution and the checkpoints to the questions that you ask in the background section. Hopefully that makes sense. So when you feel like you understand the current situation, you understand kind of what they're going through, what they're doing, that type of thing, then you'll find out, okay, so, you know, what's the ultimate goal? What would you love to create? What would you love to achieve in the next 6 to 12 months? You know, if you could achieve anything, you can ask that question however you like, just whatever kind of resonates with you. You know, what's the best possible outcome? I normally like to split the goal into the goal and the vision. So again, it might be a business question, you know, so what's the ultimate goal in the business in the next 6 to 12 months? You know, financially, you know, lifestyle wise, what does that look like? Then once they've answered that, then you might ask, okay, awesome, love that. So, you know, you want to hit 10 grand a month, you want to be able to achieve X, Y, Z. That sounds awesome. What's the vision? You know, once you've achieved that, what's the long-term vision? What would you really love to create? Does that make sense? And it's a whole different answer when you ask someone about the goal and the vision. Now, it's important to note that some people will have they'll set a very small goal, okay? And it's your job to know, okay, are they setting too big a goal or too small a goal? And maybe they're not believing in themselves, in which case you might need to challenge them. So yeah, I think it's really, really important. So for example, if I'm speaking to someone and they're making £2,000 a month and they want to make £2,500 a month or £3,000 a month, I'm going to be a little bit concerned that in the next year that they're not really aiming very high. Does that make sense? that tells me that there's an issue. They don't believe that they can achieve very much. And also, you know, if they don't have a big enough goal, they're probably not going to sign up for your program, because it's only a tiny change. They could probably do that on their own. Does that make sense? So it's your job to kind of challenge them. Is the goal too small? And are they not thinking big enough? If that kind of makes sense. At the same time, if someone's asking me, yeah, I want to lose 50 pounds in the next 2 months, then I need to set some expectations with them for obvious reasons as well. Does that make sense? Once we've uncovered the goal and you found out, you know, how that's going to impact them, how that's going to change their life, you can ask them, you know, what would that do for you? You know, if you were able to achieve XYZ goal, if you're able to achieve this in the business, if you're able to lose this much weight, you know, how would that impact you? How would that impact on, you know, your family and like your kids? You know, how would your wife feel about that? How would that impact on how you show up for work? So we're really trying to paint a picture and create excitement. You actually want them to feel that excitement as well. Then we want to find out, okay, cool. You know, what's actually stopping you from achieving that? You know, what do you see as the biggest challenge that's stopping you from achieving that? If they haven't achieved the goal and it's a brand new thing and they've never done anything like it, so it might be starting a new business, then you would ask them, what do you see as the biggest challenge with achieving that? If that makes sense. Then we're going to go into what they've tried, alternatives, like what else are you doing? Like, have you looked at other options or other competitors? You know, curious, like you mentioned that you wanted to do this for the last couple of years. You know, what's prompted you to look at this now? You know, what's changed or what's happened recently that's really got you looking at now getting support and help with this? You know, why is that important to you? So this why now question is really, really important, because otherwise they might think about it, they might procrastinate. You really need to get them to kind of explain to you why now is the right time, why, like, they've been looking to do this for a while. Like, they need to tell you why it's a priority. And that's really just going to get them to sell themselves, because maybe now isn't the right time. You know, like, it's not your job to convince someone to buy something that they don't need, but it is our job to understand why is it a priority and why do they want to do it now. And if they're telling you that I've been needing to do this for a few years, I just haven't found the right support, like, now's the perfect, if I don't do this now, then I'm never going to be able to X, Y. I know I'm just going to put it off another year. Right now, now it's our job to lead. Now it's our job to coach them into making the right decision. Does that make sense? But it's much more important if they tell us. Then what we can do is, this is an optional part of the scripts. It's a big part that I learned from a guy called Cole Gordon, who does a lot of sales training and that kind of thing. And he always says that you need to create doubt in order for them to buy. And this is something that I added into all my like closing structures, and it's been an absolute game changer. So if you know that the solution you have is the best option for that person to succeed, and you know that if they don't do it, so for Claire, for example, you know, productivity and leadership and all that type of thing, if someone doesn't get your solution, then they might spin their wheels and do other solutions that won't actually solve the actual problem. And therefore, they're just going to keep going around in circles, if that makes sense. So we need to show them that the solution that we have, how we're different, and the fact that if they do go and do XYZ program, or they do go and do another thing to try and solve that problem, it's not going to solve it. Does that make sense? So it's a really, really important. So when I do this, for example, as an executive health coach, I might say that you can obviously go and get a personal trainer, okay? And they're going to give you a great hour session, but it's not going to fix the nutrition. It's not going to fix your sleep. It's not going to help you rebalance your hormones. It's just going to guarantee a good 1 hour a week. What about the other 167 hours? Does that make sense? And I've seen people spend thousands of pounds over 2, 3, 4 years and not lose the weight, because they're paying money to a personal trainer who's given them like great fitness and strength, but it's not solving the problem that they came to them for. Does that make sense? And then obviously, if you can go to a nutritionist and they'll give you a fantastic meal plan, but then how sustainable is it? And are you really going to follow that meal plan for the rest of your life? Most likely not. And then, you know, then you might have to pay an accountability coach and a nutritionist and a personal trainer. And that's going to add up to, you know, spending at least £1,000 a month. Do you see how that it's either going to be really expensive or it's not going to solve the problem? Now, when I position a £2,000 coaching program over 3 months that guarantees results, and it's going to cost less than those other options, and it's personalized and it's sustainable, can you see how now you position your solution as a way that is going to solve the problem and save the money? Does that make sense? So what we're doing is we're knocking away the competition. We're showing them that it's going to be silly to look at other options. People used to do a call with me when it comes to the health coaching, and then they say, oh, well, I'm not sure, like, you know, I'm looking at maybe getting a personal trainer. That doesn't happen anymore, ever. Okay. So this is really, so think of what are the top 2 or 3 alternatives to signing up to you that they would go to, and then add that into your script and let them know, hey, look, you know, have you looked at other solutions? Are you considering other things? Look, a lot of people will either try and do it on their own, and this is the problem with that. They'll go to this option, and here's the downside of that. Or they go to this option, and that's going to cost them probably 2, 3, 4 times as much money. Can you see that? So are you open for me to show you how we're different and how we do things differently, and how I could, you know, would you like me to show you how I can help you achieve this? Okay, perfect. Happy for me to share my screen, or not share your screen. If you don't want to present, that's fine. So does this make sense? Now, when it comes to the pitch is really important. So we want to talk about the outcome more than anything. A lot of people are saying you get one-to-one coaching, you get 3 one-to-one sessions, you get, you know, this course, etc. That's not how we want to lay it out. So what I want you to think about doing is focusing on like phases to your program, or like the benefit. So the first thing that you get access to is a one-to-one session, one-to-one mentor, where you're going to get clarity on XYZ. And then that's going to allow you to know exactly how you're going to implement this and save time on this and create the right strategy around that. So you're talking about, here's what you get, and here's the benefit, and here's how that's going to impact you. Does that make sense? The next part is you get access to, you know, the mentorship, which means that, you know, most people fall off and they kind of lose track, and they don't, this is going to give you XYZ accountability, and this is going to help you in this way. And instead of you know, like stop starting all the time, we're going to guarantee that you stay on track with XYZ. Does that make sense? So we're trying to basically go through what is it they get, and then what's the benefit and the outcome. When you actually pitch the price, it's really, really important. Most people just kind of, I don't know, I think most people are not very good at pitching the price and being really confident with mentioning the price. So what you want to do is always check back in with them. You go through all the features. Okay, so you've gone through, okay, the one-to-one coaching, and here's the benefit of that, and here's what that looks like, and here's the outcome. In the first phase, we're going to achieve XYZ goal. And then once we've achieved that, we move on to phase 2, where we start to implement XYZ. And here's how that's going to impact you. And here's how this is going to impact your business or impact your relationships or whatever your niche is. Then from there, we then go through a phase where we're going to work on XYZ. So you go through each phase and what they get and the outcome. And then what you do is you check back in. If you're sharing screen, you want to stop sharing, just go, okay, I just want to check back in with you for a moment. I've gone through a lot of information. You know, how are we feeling? Like, is this exciting? Like, do you feel like this covers everything you need? Like, how are you feeling overall? And then they're going to tell, oh, this is great. It's amazing. You know, do you feel like this is going to help you achieve the result? Yeah, I do. Oh, so you want to listen for tonality like that? Oh, you sound like, you know, do you feel like there's anything missing, or you sound a little bit like hesitant? Do you mind if I ask why? Oh, I'm just not sure. Like, it sounds like a lot. I'm just not sure, you know, how long is it going to take to implement all this? Okay, cool. Now we brought up the time objection. That's actually a really good thing, by the way. So you want to bring out any objections before you pitch the price. Does that make sense? So you always go through the information, talk about the benefits, stop sharing if you are sharing. Hey, look, just want to check in quickly. Like, I know it's a lot of information. Like, can you see how this is different to anything else that you've tried before? What is it you like most about all of this? Like, do you feel like this will actually help you get the result? Do you feel like this is kind of what you've been looking for? And you really want their buy-in, like their absolute certainty. At this point, you want them to say, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, so, yes, this is absolutely what I've been looking for. You want them to have that level of certainty before you actually pitch the price. If they don't, if there's any hesitation at all, you need to challenge them on that, and you need to draw it out. Hey, look, I'm getting a sense that there's a little bit of hesitation. Like, that's totally okay. I know it's a lot of information. Is there anything keeping you from being 100% certain that this is exactly what you need? Okay, then you want to bring out any hesitation. You want to bring out any objections at that point there. No. Like, to be honest, this looks like exactly what I'm looking for. I'm just a bit worried about the price, about the investment. Okay, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. If it's any other hesitation, you want to bring that out. Is it time? Is it their belief they can follow through? Do they think there's anything missing? Is there things included that they don't think that they need? You need to get that out now before you pitch the price. Does that make sense? They might say, oh, I'm just not sure I need that. And then you can, okay, well, do you remember at the beginning, you mentioned that you struggle with XYZ? Well, the reason that we do this is because like most people actually struggle with that. And we found that by adding that in, that actually gives you XYZ clarity and certainty. And that's also going to help solve this problem that you mentioned. Can you see that? Okay, cool. Yeah, I understand that. That makes sense. Cool. So overall, like if there's any hesitation at this point, 0 to 10, 0 is, you know, can't stand this guy, can't wait to get off the call. 10 is, this is exactly what I'm looking for. Like, I literally can't wait to get started. Where would you say you're at on the scale of 0 to 10? Okay, at this point, you don't have to do the 0 to 10 check-in, right? If they sound certain, oh my God, yeah, this is exactly what I've been looking for, then you can move on. If they sound hesitant, draw out the hesitancy or ask the 0 to 10 question or both. So if you ask the 0 to 10 question, you know, on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 is, you know, totally don't need this. I want to go do it on my own. 10 is, oh my God, this is exactly what I've been looking for. Can't wait to get started. I want to know more. Where would you say you're at on that scale? And they say an 8 or less, then we want to find out, okay, you know, what would you say is keeping you from being a 9 or a 10? What would get you to a 9 or a 10? Oh, you know, does it include this? Or, you know, how long would this take to implement? Or, you know, you draw out those questions and you get them to a 9 or a 10, and then you move on. If they say a 9 or a 10, then you're going to say, fantastic. Like that's amazing. Like what's giving you that confidence? What is it you like most? So now you're getting them to affirm why is it that they've answered so highly? What is it that they love? What's giving them that confidence that it's a 9 or a 10? And you're showing excitement. So then when you actually pitch the price, the way you want to do it, general structure, is basically going to be, okay, so are you ready for the investment? Perfect. Now I like to throw in a little joke. Okay, it's a little bit silly, but I like to throw a stupid price, and I'll normally go, cool. So the total investment's about 100,000 plus your left kidney. How does that sound? And then I'll just start laughing. They start laughing. Sorry, terrible joke. Okay, in all honesty, so the total investment to get you from A to B, this is the structure, by the way. Total investment to get you from A to B is X amount. Okay, so that's in a nutshell. So when I say A to B, you're saying the total investment to get you from struggling with XYZ and not knowing how to XYZ to being able to implement XYZ system and achieving XYZ goal, the total investment for you to do that is just £4,000. And then you stay quiet. Does that make sense? So you're tying in, because they're not buying your solution, they're buying the outcome. So when you pitch that price, you're saying the total investment to get you from X, where they are now, to Y outcome, where they want to be, is just X amount. So you're showing them that the investment to get from where they are to where they want to be, that's what they're paying for. Does that make sense? Okay, so just want to check back in. That's a lot of information. Again, I'm using what I do in the calls. What questions do you guys have? Is this making sense? Feel free to throw any questions.
Yeah, okay, we'll move on to questions, but before we do that, just thanks so much for all of that, Joey. Fantastic insights today. And just quickly before, and Sue, I'm definitely coming to you first, don't you worry. As you're probably thinking about how you're going to close more deals and improve your sales conversions, some of you must be wondering, how can I make sure that my LinkedIn profile is working for me in this sales process? Well, the truth is your LinkedIn profile plays a crucial role in how your potential clients perceive you and your business. Whether you're reaching out to new prospects or following up on leads, optimizing your profile can really help you make a stronger impression and build credibility faster. And that's why we here are offering you a free LinkedIn profile audit. It's a 45-minute one-on-one session. I'm just going to share my screen and show you this. So this is where we will help you to optimize your profile to attract the right people and business opportunities, craft a headline and banner that position you as an expert, use recommendations and social proof to build trust, help you write an about section that clearly communicates your value, and fine-tune your lead generation strategy to pull in more quality leads. No catch, just real actionable advice to help you use LinkedIn to its fullest potential. These sessions are limited, so if I click on this link now and show you, you can see that we've only got 3 slots left this month. So please do, if you're interested, book one now before they go. If these times do not suit you, and also Flora, can you plop a link to that booking in the chat for me as well if you haven't already? I'm sure you have, because Flora's always on it. If none of those times don't suit you, just drop waiting list in the chat and one of the team can reach out to you and get you booked in on one of those slots. So if you are serious about, let me get this back up again. If you are serious about improving your sales conversations and converting connections, then this is your chance to get expert eyes on your LinkedIn profile. Now we're going to open it up for Q&A. So if you've got questions for Joey about closing deals, handling objections, tricky prospects, or anything sales related, drop them in the chat or raise your hand like Sue here has, and we will start off with your question, Sue.
Okay, thank you. I am a telemarketer already, so I'm used to hopefully creating rapport. But your presentation, by the way, was brilliant, totally brilliant. But I'm wondering if you have any tips on creating rapport for outgoing calls, and of course, if you like, closing the deal, as it were. Because I make a lot of calls setting appointments for my clients to present their products and services. So I don't know if you've got any, as I say, I do it anyway, but I'm just looking to see if you've got any additional tips, because you certainly, well, your presentation for incoming calls is brilliant.
Thank you very much. I love that. What is it you're selling? Trying to see that.
Well, I'm not, that's the problem. I could be talking to anybody, any product, because I'm trying to set up appointments for my clients to present their products and services to potential clients.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
So it's quite difficult.
Yeah. There's a whole host of different situations that you could be calling them about.
Yes.
So would they have like downloaded a lead magnet or something, or would
no, nothing? I'm calling. It's not cold calling, because I work on I work on a warm database.
Okay.
But I'm phoning up somebody who's not expecting my call to try and arrange an appointment with my client.
Okay. And when you say a warm database, what do you mean by that?
Well, it's provided by the client.
Oh, it's their list of prospects?
Yes. Or it's a bought-in list for people who are potentially interested in my client's product or service. So it's warm. It's warm in that sense, but they don't know me. Yeah.
I think one of the biggest tips is you've really got like 1 second to kind of make an impression, because obviously when you pick up a call and it's like, oh, hi, is that Sue? Then you're straight away, you're on the back foot. Do you know what I mean? So you never want to start a call like that ever. So the way I always like to start the call is literally like I already know you, like I'm your friend. So I'll pick up the call, go, Sue, how's it going? It's Joey here. Oh, hi, Joey. Sorry, who? But they're not, but you're almost like, oh, do I know you? Yeah, I'm just calling on behalf of blah, 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 like, and then XYZ person that they already know. How's it going? And then you just kind of, oh, right, yeah, you want them to say, oh, yes, I know who you are, I know who you're calling about. Look, just 2 seconds, like, I know you're busy. So you want to diffuse them. Like, and the way I like to diffuse as well is I like to throw my own time objection first. But so I will almost, because most people are like, oh, look, I haven't got much time to talk. So I'll throw that in before they can even say it. So I'll start off and go, hey, Sue. Oh, no, so let me start again. I'll be like, hey, Sue, how's it going? It's Joey here. Sorry, who? Calling from XYZ company or whatever. How's your day been? And then you'll say, oh, yeah. No, I'm all good. Look, I've only got a minute or two. I know you're busy as well. Just quickly, we're sending out blah, 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 blah to provide value. Just curious what, and then you ask one question as an example. But I'll always throw the time objection first. Hey, look, I've only got a couple minutes. I know you're busy as well, but super quick. You know, Sue wanted me to reach out and provide some value around XYZ. I'm just curious. And then you ask a question. Or you could say, look, we're sending out some value, and you want it to sound really high value. Like, have you got 2 minutes? And then, I'll be able to hook you up with XYZ. Okay, cool. So you're just trying to get a little bit of buy-in of a bit more time. And then once they've answered a few questions, normally at that point they've opened up. And then even if they've said, I've only got 2 minutes, you might be chatting to them for 10, 20 minutes. But I think opening it is really, really important. Does that help?
Oh, it is. It's critical. Absolutely. And getting more so.
And having a reason for the call as well that's the really, I'm just calling because, or I've only got a minute or two. I know you're busy as well, but I'm just calling because XYZ person wanted me to reach out to hook you up with XYZ, or to be able to share XYZ with you, or let you know about XYZ. Or you might make it about the action they took. Like, I just saw that you'd registered for XYZ, wanted to make sure that you got XYZ information. Just curious, what were you hoping to get from that? Does that make sense? So all these kind of openers are really, really powerful.
Yes, excellent. Yeah.
Cool, no worries. I think we had a quick question on, where was it? Before the call. So someone had posted a question about like tips before and after the call. Is that right? Who was it that asked that question? Can anyone find that in the chat?
Yeah, that was me.
Okay, yeah. What was the question, Graham?
Well, no, you just mentioned earlier on if people wanted to hear about what they should be doing before and after the call. So I was curious to hear your thoughts about that.
Perfect. Okay, so do you do an audit, or do you have like a free session, or where do your calls come from normally?
No, so I'm a speaker. So normally I get leads, and then there's normally a sales call when you get a sort of one chance to sell your stuff.
Right. The best thing that you can do is have a couple of emails that go out beforehand and text message to confirm their call. But ideally, if you have if they don't know much about you, then you can have like a video sales letter or a document, or you want like a thank you page with results, ideally, that they can check out before the call. You can, if you want, give them an exercise or some homework to complete. So it really, really depends on like where that prospect has come from. How well do they know you? If they've seen you speak and they're really sold on what you do and they really like you, you don't need as much before the call. It's more just maybe you might get them to confirm the call, or complete a pre-call form, for example, and maybe go through a short training or watch a short video. What we like to do is have a short video that kind of talks a bit about what we do and what to expect on the call, and maybe have a couple of like top 2 or 3 objections that they might have that you answer in a really short 30 to 60-second video as well. So if what you're doing is like a program or mentorship and they want to know more, then you might have an objection that handles, oh, what if I don't have much time to implement? What if I've only got what if I'm really busy and I don't have much time to implement? Or, it might even be to do with age. What if am I too old for blah, 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 blah? Or what if I don't have much money to, for example, if it's a property thing, then it might be, well, what if I don't have money to invest in property? Oh, we're going to show you how to do it where you're not using your own money, you're using other people's, whatever. Does that make sense? So you're trying to handle a few of the objections before the call. So try and think like, what is you ideally want about 70 to 80% show up rate. And if you don't have that in place, then what could you do to share value with them? A quick video, not a 20-30 minute video, maybe 2 to 5 minutes, 7 minutes max of video of like value that you can send them. Or it could just be some client results and like building excitement for the call and letting them know what they're going to get on the call. And then we do audits and things like that. So they're going to get massive value on the call. They're going to get you're going to get loads of clarity and insights and things like that. And obviously, like, look, if what we offer is not a fit, we're not going to pitch you anything, but we do want you to get value as the primary. After the call, you can have a nurture sequence, but again, your follow-up call process is really important. So if they don't sign up on the call, book them for a follow-up call, at least a clarity call, and maybe share some value in the meantime, share a resource, send them all the information of what they're going to get, send them a couple of results and things like that. And again, there's no pressure on that second call. If you've had a really good first call, you can let them know, hey, look, I'm not going to pressure you. Like, it's mainly just for clarity. And you can let them know as well, like, hey, look, if it doesn't work out, like, we can at least create a game plan for the future. So if you can increase your shot rate to the second call, just let them know, hey, look, we're here to just get clarity, help you figure out, is this the right fit for you? At the end of the day, the most important thing for me is that there's 100% alignment. If there's not alignment, like, I don't want you to move forward with it. And I want to make sure we're on the same page. And if it's not right, or we can't make it work, let's at least create a game plan for the future. Does that sound fair? And you're just like getting their buy-in to show up for that second call. Does that make sense?
Sure. Thank you.
Cool. No worries. Other questions? These are good. Keep them coming. I'm just looking through the chat. Oh, Sue, is it your hand raised from before?
No, it's a new
A
question.
new one. Okay, let's go for it. What's the question?
Okay. The answer to my first question was brilliant. The really good tips there. My biggest problem historically is getting past the gatekeeper.
Okay.
So obviously rapport is a relevant factor, but much less so. Well, not less so, but it's harder, isn't it? I mean, how do I get past the gatekeeper who wants to know why I'm ringing the person?
Yeah. I guess you got to have a good reason to explain to them why you're speaking to them.
Yeah.
Can you give me an example?
Oh, crumbs. Well, I do work on behalf of, I bring potential clients on behalf of, for example, accountants, for example.
Yes. Okay. So on behalf of accountants.
Yeah, on behalf of accountants to potential clients, yeah.
Okay. And what type of business would you be calling as an example?
Well, SMEs and sole traders, but other than that, I can't really be specific. But although they're small traders, SMEs, they quite often do have gatekeepers. But I wouldn't be ringing big companies or corporates.
Yeah. Okay. So I would try and think of like an offer. And when I say an offer, I mean something that you're giving them of value that might be time sensitive. And that's the reason for the call. So that way, when you're calling them up, you can say, hey, this is Sue calling on behalf of XYZ. Nick mentioned, or he's, he actually requested some information. Super important. It's just regarding some accounting stuff. And when would he be available? So you're just trying to give just enough information that they think it sounds important enough to pass it through, if that makes sense. And saying that, oh, he's requested something. It's actually, we need to actually get through to him to be able to deliver this to him this week. When would he be available? Or is he available? Are you able to pass? Yeah. Kind of thing.
Even though they haven't requested anything.
Yeah, just you can say that they are. You want to say it in a way where they have actually opted into something, otherwise they wouldn't be on the list. And your company, who does accounting, is offering this free report, or free assessment rather, that is only going to be available for the next few days. And we wanted to make sure that it got through to him. Is he available now, or would be available in the next couple of hours?
Brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't even say, is he available? Say, what's the possibility you could pass me through to him if he's available now? What's the possibility? Brilliant. And if he's not, then you say, okay, no, completely understand that. Do you know what time he's going to be available? I know he's got a busy day today. What time is he going to have gaps between clients, or something like that? So you're almost like working with the gatekeeper to go, look, we don't want to interrupt his schedule. Let's figure out a time together that he's going to be available, so I can make sure that he gets the value without it interrupting his clients.
Yeah.
Do you want to sound like you're on her side or his side?
Yeah, very clever. It's all about the words. I do know that using the word help is really useful as well, because people subconsciously always want to help. So
you're doing them a favor. So you're trying to put it across like most people are trying to give value, but they're communicating in a way where they know they're being a nuisance, but it's not the case. Like, you guys all have something of value to offer.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, it's just a case of being able to influence that person to understand that you do respect their time, you are going to give them value. You're not going to take up a whole bunch of time. You're just trying to give them something that will actually be valuable for them. And it will be, because otherwise he wouldn't be on the list in the first place, most likely.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. That's, yeah, excellent.
You're welcome. No worries. Dawn, yes, you've got a question.
Yeah, so I'm just having a look at the time. We've literally only got 2 minutes. So Dawn, Joey, if you can answer it really quickly in 2 minutes, do. If not, Dawn, if you can reach out on LinkedIn for Breakfast, we'll make sure that question gets answered for you offline. But let's see if we can get a quick answer for you before the end of the meeting.
Sure.
So my question is, I'd already put it in the chat much earlier on, but it hadn't been spotted. Sorry, that's just brought up a pop-up there. So when I've got somebody on a call and they've not identified that they've got a problem, so it's more of me asking for an intro call, but you know, secretly, you know, at some point I'm hoping that in the future they'll become a client, you know, working out if they have got a problem that they need solving, right?
Yeah.
So I want to be able to do it in a way that is an intro call, but warming them up to the fact that I may be able to help them.
Okay. What is it you do?
So
super quickly.
So I don't want it to sound like a sales pitch.
Yeah. Yeah. What is it you do? What's the problem you solve?
I'm a coach.
Okay, cool. So if someone's and have they requested a call, but they got an intro chat. Hey, look, I want to give you as much value as possible. So I'd love to just ask you 2 questions. I'd like to ask you openly and honestly. And as a result of that, you know, might be able to share a couple of resources. If not, we can obviously jump on a second call. So firstly, you know, at the moment you mentioned that you're trying to achieve XYZ goal. Like, do you feel...
I know, but they haven't said that they're trying to achieve a goal. So it's that initial, like, I've connected with you on LinkedIn.
It's not on a conversation.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. It's an intro call where you've just connected, want to say hi, and maybe that isn't a pitch call. Maybe that's an intro, and then you can have.
It could be, yeah. I'd probably ask questions like,
Joey, sorry guys, I'm really sorry to like interrupt you, Barra. Like, we do have like a hard stop at 10 o'clock because this link is now needs to be used for a client meeting, so we're going to be overrunning.
Maybe I can connect with Joey and we can have a chat ourselves.
Yes, please, Dawn. Yeah, if you could chat to Joey on the LinkedIn for Breakfast group, or Joey.
No, I mean I like a proper conversation rather than.
Yeah, but I mean, if you just reach out and can make that connection that way, and then you can get your question answered.
Drop me a message. We'll connect. Thank you, guys. I hope you enjoyed today's session.
So thanks, guys. Sorry for the abrupt ending.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.